Imagine that every morning, before your brain has fully switched on, you ask AI what to eat, what to write, how to reply, what an article means, and even what you should think about it. It feels like gaining a second brain. But your first brain may be learning a quiet lesson. I don't need to do this anymore, so does using AI every day make you sharper, or does it slowly make you worse at thinking? The honest answer is more interesting than either headline. AI does not have one single effect on your brain. It depends on which mental work it removes, which work it leaves for you, and whether you use it like a tutor or an autopilot. And later, we'll examine the alarming experiment that measured people's brain activity while they wrote with ChatGPT. Its results deserve attention, but they do not prove what many headlines claimed. First, we need to understand something your brain has always done. It outsources. You write a shopping list so you do not have to remember 12 items. You use a calculator instead of carrying long division in your head. You save a phone number instead of memorizing it. Psychologists call this cognitive offloading, using something outside your mind to reduce the mental demands of a task. That is not automatically bad. Offloading can free limited attention and working memory for more important decisions. The problem begins when the thing you offload is the exact skill you are trying to build. Consider two people using AI to learn the same topic. The first asks, "Give me the answer." The second asks, "Give me one hint." Then question my reasoning. Both may finish faster than they would alone, but only one repeatedly practices recall, explanation, and error correction. The difference is invisible in the finished document. It appears later when the AI is gone. Long before ChatGPT, researchers found that people remembered information differently when they expected a computer to store it. They became better at remembering where information could be found and less likely to remember the information itself. AI expands that trade. A search engine can retrieve a fact. A generative AI can retrieve the fact, organize it, compare it, explain it, and write the conclusion. That makes it extraordinarily useful. It also means you can bypass almost every step that normally makes an idea stick. To form a useful memory, you must do more than look at information. You have to pay attention, connect it to something you already understand, retrieve it, and correct your mistakes. When AI instantly produces a polished explanation, you may read it and think, "Yes, that makes sense." But recognition is not recall. Close the chat window and explain the idea from memory. The gap becomes obvious. This became concrete in a large field experiment involving nearly 1,000 high school students learning mathematics. During practice, students with access to GPT-4 performed much better. A standard chatbot-style system improved assisted performance by 48%. A specially designed tutor improved it by 127%. Then the researchers removed the AI. Students who had used the standard chatbot performed 17% worse than students who had never received AI access. They had completed more problems successfully, but they had learned less that they could reproduce independently. That sounds like a verdict against AI. It is not, because the specially designed tutor largely avoided the damage. The technology was not the only variable. The type of help mattered. Another randomized study produced an apparently opposite result. In a Harvard physics course, students using a carefully structured AI tutor achieved more than twice the median learning gain of students in an active learning classroom condition. They also spent less time on the lesson. But this was not a chatbot handing students finished solutions. The tutor guided students through problems in stages. It asked questions. It managed difficulty. It provided targeted feedback. And it was supplied with carefully prepared solutions to reduce incorrect explanations. Same broad technology, very different cognitive job. One system acted like a vending machine for solutions. The other acted more like a patient teacher. This is the central distinction. Performance is what you can produce with the tool. Learning is what remains when the tool is removed. And daily AI use can make those two things look deceptively similar. The next change is not necessarily what you think. AI may not eliminate critical thinking, it can relocate it. When you work alone, your main task is generating an answer. With AI, your task becomes checking, selecting, combining, and supervising answers. That can be a higher level skill, but only if you actually do it. A 2025 study of 319 knowledge workers collected 936 examples of generative AI being used at work. Greater confidence in the AI was associated with less critical thinking effort. Greater confidence in a person's own task ability was associated with more. In other words, the more authoritative the machine feels, the easier it becomes to turn into its editor in name only. Fluent language is especially dangerous here. A confident, well-structured answer feels processed, even when you have not processed it. Earlier research into AI-assisted decisions found that people frequently followed an AI recommendation when it was wrong, and they could have done better alone. Simply adding an explanation did not reliably solve the problem. Interventions that forced users to make an initial judgment, slow down or consider alternatives reduced over-reliance. But people liked those systems less. The safer system felt more annoying because it made people think. That gives us a strange design rule. Sometimes friction is a feature. Now consider creativity. Generative AI is exceptionally good at producing possibilities quickly. In experiments involving short story writing, access to AI-generated ideas improved the assessed creativity and quality of individual stories. The largest improvements appeared among people whose unaided work had initially received lower creativity scores. But the stories also became more similar to one another. AI can raise the floor while narrowing the room. The first plausible suggestion can act like an anchor. Once you see it, completely different alternatives become harder to imagine. If millions of people begin with models trained on overlapping material, individual work may become smoother, while collective output becomes less diverse. AI can provide a better starting point, but when it always speaks first, your own unusual first thought gets fewer chances to exist. And now the brain study. In 2025, researchers asked people to write essays under 3 conditions: using a large language model, using a search engine, or using no external tool. The researchers measured electrical activity using EEG. The unaided group showed the strongest and most widely distributed connectivity. Search users were in the middle. LLM users showed the weakest connectivity, had more difficulty quoting their own essays, and reported less ownership of their work. That result generated headlines suggesting ChatGPT was reducing brain activity. But there are major cautions. The study was a preprint, not a completed, peer-reviewed verdict. It involved 54 participants during the first sessions and only 18 in the final crossover session. Other researchers have raised concerns about its sample size, reproducibility, analysis choices, and the strength of its conclusions. Most importantly, lower activity during one task does not equal permanent brain damage, lower intelligence, or a shrinking brain. A tool that makes a task easier may reduce effort. Sometimes that is the entire purpose of the tool. The unanswered question is whether repeatedly avoiding effort causes important abilities to weaken over months or years. We do not yet have enough long-term evidence to answer that confidently. The newest evidence already shows why simple conclusions fail. A randomized experiment released on July 9, 2026, found that AI access improved immediate knowledge scores, with gains still detectable 1 week later, but the largest benefits appeared among augmentation users, people who asked AI to explain concepts. Short-term gains were less durable among automation users, who mainly asked AI to draft their work. The study is very new and has not yet completed peer review. But its pattern matches the broader evidence. The important variable may not be how often you use AI. It may be the mental role you give it. So what does using AI every day do to your brain? It trains your habits of attention. If you repeatedly use AI to escape confusion, you practice escaping confusion. If you use it to obtain finished answers, you practice recognizing answers rather than generating them. If you accept its first response, you practice deference. But if you use AI to test your explanation, expose weak assumptions, create practice questions, or simulate an opponent, you practice thinking with resistance. Here is a 5-step method that keeps AI useful without handing over the entire mental workout. First, attempt before assistance. Spend at least 1 minute forming your own answer, outline, or prediction. Second, ask for a hint before a solution. Make the AI reveal help in stages. Third, force disagreement. Ask for the strongest counterargument, the hidden assumption, and the conditions under which the answer would be wrong. Fourth, close the tool and recall. Explain the idea from memory in plain language. If you cannot, you have generated output, not learned the material. Fifth, keep some no AI repetitions. Write, calculate, plan, or solve independently often enough to preserve the underlying skill. This does not mean refusing calculators, maps, search engines, or AI. Human intelligence has always expanded by building tools. The danger is not that the tool thinks. The danger is forgetting which parts still need to be thought by you. Used as autopilot, AI can make your work look stronger while leaving you less prepared when it disappears. Used as a sparring partner, it can give you more feedback, more examples, and more opportunities to practice than you had before. So the next time the cursor is blinking and the AI is ready, do one thing first: think before you prompt. Because the most important effect of daily AI use may not be what it puts on the screen. It may be the habit it builds in the person behind it. Subscribe to Answers for more big questions explained simply, and tell us in the comments which tasks you refuse to hand over to AI.